Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
Great Scott! There's no crying in baseball!
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
This is where the fun begins.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's right. We're ranking Moana 2. Moana 2 is a 2024 American animated musical adventure film. A sequel to the film Moana, Moana 2 follows Moana as she searches to find the hidden island of Montu Fitu to reunite the scattered people of the seas. Moana is not a movie I had any real expectations for, especially with me not liking musicals, so let's get into how I felt about it with the 10 essential aspects of a movie. First is plot. Does the movie follow a comprehensive story arc and is plausible within the world that has been created? Now, something I like to harp on when it comes to sequels is asking the question of, was this justified? Did this movie need to be made? Did you have another story or perspective that you needed to tell in order to make another movie? Now, this movie is a little unique because it is made for children, and because the first Moana was so successful, I'm kind of okay with just making another one for children because they just want to see more of that character. Do I think the plot justified making another one? Not really. The world is just... The plot of this story is just kind of expanding on the world of Moana and giving you a little more perspective, but the villain in this movie is not very good, not very compelling, not very interesting, but again, this movie is made for children, so really, is it justified? Yes, in some ways, because a lot of children liked watching the first Moana, and children don't really care about really good plots that much. They just want to see more of their characters that they love, and that's what they did here. So, was it justified? Yes, in some ways, but it wasn't necessarily done in the best of ways. The plot wasn't that good. Second is attraction. Does the movie have an interesting premise with a high entertainment value? Obviously, again, this movie is made for children, so kids will probably enjoy this movie. If they enjoyed watching the first Moana, they will enjoy watching the second Moana. Now, as an adult, if you didn't love the first Moana, this one isn't giving you anything new to change your mind. If you could tolerate it and enjoyed it, you'll probably feel the same way. I think they're very similar as far as movies go. They did what they were supposed to do, which was entertain children. Third is theme. What message or truth is the movie trying to convey? Now, the message and theme of this movie is about teamwork and in some ways was kind of a detriment to the movie. Of course, kids don't really care, but as an adult, I found the team aspect was just a little too disjointed and too on the nose in the beginning. You could really tell what these characters were going, what their role was in this team and how they weren't fulfilling it, but they would later on. It was a very easy and obvious message that is meant for children. Fourth is dialogue. Is there a real feel to the conversations? Yes, there is somewhat of a real feel. Again, it is a kids movie, so you have a little leeway there. I was actually expecting more bad jokes, more jokes that are just for children and not funny for adults than I actually got. But I also there wasn't a lot of good jokes either. There was just a lot of middle of the road jokes. I'm sure a child would be entertained, but as an adult watching this movie, it's fine. It's the dialogue you expect in a kids movie, and it's not that funny, but it's not too much of a drag to get through it either. Fifth is acting. Are the characters convincing? Now, obviously, this is an animated film, so it is just the voices for all these characters, and they were all okay, but I might have a controversial opinion on this, but I really do not like The Rock in this movie. I do not think he fits the character well. I think most people maybe just think they kind of look similar, so it just works, but I personally don't. I don't think they look that similar. I think they're very different, and The Rock is famous enough that his voice is just unique because you know it. You know that that's his voice, and he's not a good enough voice actor to really change his voice. He just talks as The Rock, and I heard it every single time, and to me it was very distracting and I didn't like it. And on top of that, he's not a good singer. I think when he has songs in this musical, they're not very good, and he's not very good at singing. I personally think they probably could have found someone much better to play the role rather than just having someone with a big name who somewhat looks like the character. I think most kids probably don't care, and adults, I'm sure they don't care to an extent. He kind of looks like him, so it's okay. But to me, I found it pretty distracting, and I didn't think he was that good in the role. 6 is cinematography. Is there a creative use of lighting, setting, and wardrobe to convey emotion? Now, something that, of course, has just been pretty popular with these animated films as of lately is that this movie just looks amazing. It is awesome to look at. Whoever is working behind the scenes making the animation, they need a raise because it's incredible. I mean, it is so fun to watch this movie because the colors are bright, but everything just looks amazing, and it has such an incredible detail that we did not have for animated movies 20 years ago. They've just made such leaps and bounds that it's so awesome to watch a movie like this and just see the details in it and see how great it really looks. I did enjoy the past aspect of this movie where you get to see some of the past surrounding the world that they live in. I enjoyed that. The visuals of it were really nice. I really enjoyed the colors. Emotionally, it does nothing for me. I don't care about these characters enough. I don't like them enough. The storytelling is just not good enough. It's good enough to entertain a child, but I really enjoy those children's movies that can entertain a child but also really entertain adults and have a message for not just children but also adults. A movie like that, I would say The Wild Robot this year did a great job doing stuff like that, where I know that a kids movie can do both things. This movie was much more kid related. I think emotionally it's just not going to work for adults. 7th is editing. This is all about the pace of the movie. The movie is an hour and 40 minutes long. I thought it was a decent time. I'm glad they really didn't drag it out. I would say an hour 40 is good for a musical. This movie does have songs in it. It is a musical, so that is going to pad out the runtime a little bit. So really the story of this movie is probably somewhere between an hour 20 and an hour 30. And I thought it was a good amount. They did not overstay their welcome, but they also told just enough of a story. 8th is soundtrack. Now, this obviously is a musical, so the soundtrack is a big part of this movie. I personally am not a fan of musicals, but I do try to enjoy myself when I go to watch a movie, and I try to enjoy the music in this movie. I found it very forgettable. I found it very boring. I did not enjoy it all that well. Like I said previously, I thought the parts where The Rock was singing was not very good. I did not find the songs unique or that fun. So honestly, I thought it was a very bland musical as far as music goes. Again, I am not a fan. If you are a fan of musicals, you probably will enjoy most of the songs. If you just enjoy that kind of storytelling, you will probably enjoy the songs in this movie. 9th is directing. Now, I feel the director is in charge of the previous 8 aspects. They are the ones that have to give it their stamp of approval, put it all together, make a really good movie. Now, the 3 directors of this movie were David Derrick Jr., Jason Hand, and Dana Ledoux Miller. Now, as far as I know, this is the first film that any of them have directed, and personally, I have no idea how 3 people can direct a movie. 2 people I kind of understand. 3 seems kind of crazy, but honestly, they did a good job. I feel like when you have multiple directors, it's got to be hard to come together to make a movie and agree on everything. Maybe that was present in this movie, because looking back on this movie, it just feels really bland as a movie, and maybe that's what happens when you have multiple people, is that you just kind of settle in the middle instead of taking big jumps as far as storytelling goes. But it could have been way worse. This movie could have been much worse. The plot could have been terrible, but honestly, it did a good job for the most part in a lot of aspects. I think they're all decent directors, but it's hard to tell who inspired what, so it's hard to judge any of them as directors as a whole. 10th is time. Will it stand the test of time? Personally, I do not think it will. Obviously, it won't by me. I don't like musicals, but as far as people go, I don't see how it did anything big enough to overshadow the first Moana. I feel like people are just going to prefer to watch the first movie rather than the second one. And then Moana as a whole, I don't feel will be able to last that long, just because there are a lot of really, really good children movies out there that are good for children and adults, and those get remembered. I feel as though these movies are much better for children, and it will stay with the children that grew up and watched them, but eventually it will just go away. It is not good enough to stand the test of time with other children's movies that I believe will. Now for the review section. Rotten Tomatoes critics gives it a 64. The audience gives it an 87, and IMDb gives it a 71. Out of all these, I am probably near the 71 mark. I would probably go higher than that. This is probably more of a high 70s for me. It is a good movie. I think it is a good time, but it's just somewhat forgettable. If your child really enjoys Moana's character and the world of Moana, then it will probably be good for them. But it's such a narrow audience. I think for adults, it's just a forgettable movie. It's not really that good. It's not really that bad. It just kind of exists. I do think it was somewhat of a good time, but I can't put it into that B range. I just think it's a high C kind of movie. Now for the rankings. For the year of 2024, out of 27 total movies, on the entertainment side, I have it 21st. Just below Joker, Fully Andon, and above It Ends With Us. Now, I have it below Joker just because that is a world that is more interesting to me. Now, Moana 2 is in that category of movies that I would never personally choose to pick up and watch again on my own. If I had children, maybe I would, but I go off the basis of, if I were to watch this movie alone, would I pick this movie out and give it my time? And personally, I wouldn't. I would not with Joker either. However, it's more appealing. That movie is more appealing to me. I enjoy the story better, even though a lot of people did not enjoy that movie. I found several aspects of the movie I enjoyed. I just think the grittiness of it is a little more interesting to me than Moana 2. Now, I have Moana 2 above It Ends With Us because you're starting to get into movies that have problems with them that bother me. Moana 2 didn't really have a whole lot of problems that bothered me. The only thing that bothered me was maybe the fact that The Rock was voicing Maui, which I just thought is more of a personal opinion, and it really didn't make me that upset, but I just noticed it. It Ends With Us has serious points in the plot that I just do not like, and watching it though it has some aspects that I enjoy, it is outweighed sometimes by the aspects that I did not enjoy. Moana 2 I enjoyed as a whole. It's just somewhat boring to someone who is an adult. Now, cinematically, out of 27 total movies, it is 13th, just below Red 1 and above Beetlejuice. Now, I have it below Red 1. Mainly, these two movies are very, very similar to me. I think they do both a good job. However, I felt the story of Red 1 was just a little more wholesome. I enjoyed the theme a little more. I enjoyed the characters a little more, and I just think they represent film a little better. Part of this is because Moana 2 is a sequel. Now, I'm kind of judging this movie on what it has brought to the table in addition to what it already brought in Moana, and it didn't bring that much more. It brought some background to the world in which they live in, and a new character, a villain that was somewhat disappointing. So it's kind of hard to give it an edge for bringing this unique story because it had already done and brought that unique world in the first movie, and I can't really give it credit for that. Red 1 brought in a unique perspective on Santa. Though there's been a million Santa Claus movies, this one brought in another unique perspective with a wholesome message that I just feel represents film just that little bit better than Moana 2. Now, I do have it above Beetlejuice. Both are really good to look at. I enjoy the world of both. However, Beetlejuice is somewhat of a mess plot-wise. It has too many things going on. It has characters that seem like they're going to be important and not quite that important at all. I just think the plot has just a couple more problems than Moana 2 has, and it doesn't have anything, Beetlejuice doesn't have anything unique to save it that Moana 2 doesn't have already for itself. Now, for the decade of the 2020s, out of 29 total movies on the entertainment side, it is going to be 22nd. Just below Joker, Folie à Deux, and above It Ends With Us. It's there for the exact same reasons as before. Now, on the cinematic side, out of 29 total movies, it is going to be 13th, just below Red One, and above Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, again, it's there for the exact same reasons as before. Now, for the all-time list, out of 41 total movies so far, on the entertainment side, it is going to go 33rd, just below Joker, Folie à Deux, and above It Ends With Us. Unfortunately, the lower half of these lists they don't get quite unique enough. A lot of these movies are pretty hard stance because they're just not that good, and they end up making a list that's a little boring, so I apologize for that. Cinematically, out of 41 total movies, it's going to be 19th, just below Red One and above Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, it's there for the exact same reasons. Hopefully, I'll get some time to be able to add some more movies into here that are not from the decade of the 2020s and expand some of this list, make it a little more interesting. But that's all I have for Moana 2. Let me know what you thought about it. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it had good aspects. Unfortunately, it is a musical, so there are some aspects that I don't love, but I try to look past that, and I had somewhat of a good time. But, I mean, I would never watch this movie again. Please comment. Tell me your opinion on the movie. Did you enjoy it more than the first one? I enjoy hearing from you guys. It's the whole reason I made this channel. I want to interact with you guys, even if it's just you telling me your opinion or just giving me a rating on what you thought it was out of 10. I just enjoy the interaction. So even if you don't comment very much, please leave me a comment down below whether you liked Moana 2 more than Moana 1 or Moana more than Moana 2. If you're interested in watching somebody who does a similar format as to me, then watch my best friend Bosso movie reviews. He does the same thing as I do, where he ranks it against the same year, decade, and all time, and he also has a Moana 2 video already out. He is somebody that focuses a little bit more on the entertainment. I feel I focus a lot on cinematography. It's something that appeals to me. So he has a very different perspective, and he has a very different list going on, so please go make sure to check him out if you're interested. Otherwise, make sure to comment a movie you want me to review next. Make sure to subscribe so that you can watch me review that movie of yours. But otherwise, I'm Mr. Majoritarian. Stay classy, San Diego.